Busy time of year for all college football programs, but especially when you've got a meaningful game and there's only 4 teams looking at that in the college football playoff, plus recruiting and transfer portal to juggle all at the same time. Michigan, of course, one of those 4. We got Justin Rowe here, of course, from Blue by 90. Catch him on blueby90.com and also the work there at Wolverine.plus. Justin, how's it going?
Doing well. I mean, I can't lie. It does feel good to be one of those 4 still playing. It's kind of fun, I'll say, to be one of those teams watching everybody else handle the portal chaos and knowing that your team is at least going to be a little bit delayed with that for the most part, right? I mean, I think that there may be some guys that enter the portal, but they're going to wait till after the season has ended. So it's fun to watch from afar. It makes you anxious when you're watching. I'm sure if your team is a huge part of it.
Yeah, because really no fan base can rest assured right now because there's the rest of this portal cycle that's going to last 35 days until roughly around the national championship game. And then you've got the next cycle that's going to come after spring practice. So nobody's out of the woods until April or May. But at the same time, some teams are getting hammered right out of the gate. And that's when the big influx of players is going to happen. And really, the losses for Michigan are light and they're not impactful to what's happened on the football field.
Yeah, I think it says a lot. Well, winning helps. I mean, we all know that, right? That helps, and the fact that you are, still playing for a spot in the national championship game. That's gonna. I thought about it for the couple guys that have entered the portal. I understand you're looking out for your future and all that stuff, but I'm like, man, the national championship, that's the pinnacle, right? Like, wouldn't you hang on for another month and get that ring and then go for it? It's a tough situation. I understand you're looking out for yourself, but man, it just seems like that's got to be like up there. But yeah, I think that they're in good shape in the portal. They've gotten a couple guys now, incoming, and as you said, haven't had too many impactful guys. Obviously, Cade McNamara and Eric All were 2 big ones, but we knew that for a little bit now. So it's and they didn't play in this 13-0 season much at all, right? So it's all interesting. I'll be interested to see how this pans out for Michigan once the season is over, because I have to assume that even though guys aren't in the portal yet, that once the season is over, there will be a few guys that do test the waters.
So do you know what their approach is going to be? Because there haven't been many examples of it to know to this point, but last season, Emory Jones is the guy that stands out for me. Florida quarterback, enters the transfer portal, starts the bowl game, plays as a transfer portal player in the bowl game because they needed a quarterback. And he said, hey, what the heck? I'll play another game. Or maybe he wanted to put another audition out there. And so he was really the guy that comes to mind. There might have been a few others out there, but being a starting quarterback at Florida, he was kind of the headliner. And then this offseason, I'm talking to various guys that cover different teams and understanding there are transfer portal players all over the place that are continuing to practice with their teams in bowl prep. Do you know what Michigan's approach to that's going to be?
Listen, I don't know, but if I know Jim Harbaugh, I know that I can't imagine Jim Harbaugh saying, yeah, go test it out. Enjoy it. We'll have you around for as long as you want. He definitely seems to me like the guy that's like, if you enter the portal, there ain't no spot here for you, coming back. And I would agree with him in that. I from a roster management standpoint, how would you ever handle that situation where you don't know if that kid is going to be here or not? You're giving him information about the playbook and about that, like about the program. I would highly doubt that Jim Harbaugh would be open to guys that are in the portal and allow them to continue on to practice and play in games. So I have to imagine that he's if you're not with us, you're against us type of guy.
And like, we're going to take reps from a freshman we're trying to develop for somebody that's leaving.
Yeah, there's no way. I don't know how any coach, like, I don't want to take a shot at the Florida coach for, for that situation, because he probably needed it, right? But like, I don't know. I mean, I would just say, screw it. We got to develop somebody here. And if it's a guy that's not going to be here next year, then why would we put another second towards developing him,
Well, in that particular case, they had an interim coach. That was before Billy
Yeah.
Napier took over the control of the team. But I'm hearing Florida State and other teams that have multiple players in the transfer portal that are allowing them to practice. So, hey, everybody handles their program in a different way. What's going to be interesting is to see how Cade McNamara handles the Iowa offense, and Eric All's jumping on board with him, which most of us anticipated. And we know that the issues that the Iowa offense experienced, not just this season, but in recent seasons, and how bad it's been there. But Cade McNamara has been very outspoken about guys that are taking shots at the Iowa offense and saying, keep hating on us, we'll prove you wrong.
I mean, listen, I don't want to take any shots either, but it is somewhat funny for him to come out and say, like, I'm going to Iowa because I don't want to be a game manager anymore, which Iowa is like where they grow game manager QBs out of the stadium grass. I do think it's a great fit for him. I will say that. I think it's, and I think him and Eric, I would anticipate both have great seasons there. I think they'll do really, really well. Obviously, it helps when you have a familiar face and a familiar target. I think that it was the exit was interesting. There are a lot of things that they both seem to bring up with how it was handled and all that different stuff. I don't want to read into it. I haven't talked to either of them about it. But I think that there definitely seems to be a little bit of like vengeance, some trying to, I could see a Michigan-Iowa Big Ten championship revenge game trying to spurt from Cade McNamara and Eric Hall. But, they're also, like, I have seen other guys on the team that have congratulated both of them, right? And said, thank you to all that they provided for them. Good luck in the future. So I don't think it's a completely hateful split. I think it's, there may be some particular people in the building that are rubbed the wrong way, and probably rightfully so. But I think for the most part, it was, hey, this is probably the right decision for all parties here. Best of luck to you, and hope you do well in the future until you play us, type of thing.
Yeah, when Cade McNamara boasts about what they're going to do at Iowa, my doubt is not in Cade McNamara. Not that I think he's a great quarterback, but he's a very capable quarterback, and Eric All is an all-conference type tight end. My doubt is not in them. My doubt is in the Iowa offense and in the offensive coordinator, Brian Ferentz, there, in giving them the tools to succeed.
That's the thing. I'm sorry, but if Cade McNamara can't be this explosive quarterback in a Michigan offense, I know we run the ball a lot, right? But you do have Matt Weiss there. I just don't see him it's not like he's going into an air raid offense at Iowa where they've been known to just chuck it all over the place, right?
And I also think that there's a misnomer out there amongst fan bases, and I looked this up the other day because I've proven this point a zillion times, that they just believe that when you're updating an offense or you have a prolific offense, that automatically means that you throw the ball a lot. And it also means that if you have issues with your offense, i.e. Iowa, that all you need to do is start throwing the ball more, and that's magically going to go away by throwing the ball a lot. And Ohio State and Tennessee have the two most prolific offenses statistically in the country. And I looked it up, and they passed the ball 60th and 72nd in pass attempts this season. So It's about balance. It's about talent, of course. It's about play calling. It's about scheming. And it's all those other things. It's not just automatically, if you throw the ball 50 times a game, you're going to start throwing a bunch of points on the board.
It is funny too how that, the narrative would be that Ohio State throws it, on every play, right? Like if you just were a casual fan and you watch their highlights, right? Every highlight is Stroud to Olave, Stroud to Smith and Jigba, Stroud to, Ejbuka, like, all, that's what the narrative is now all of a sudden everybody throws the ball. But ultimately, like, when Ohio State won a national championship, Zeke Elliott was the guy, right? Cardale Jones obviously stepped up, but like Zeke Elliott was the MVP of that game.
Yeah, you need to do both if you're going to succeed. You can be a pass-heavy offense like Purdue and win to a certain extent, or you can be run-heavy like Wisconsin and win to a certain extent. But if you want to be elite, you have to be really good at both. Michigan picks up a nice, for all the lack of impact on the loss side of this, the big gain was through the transfer portal coming from the Western Division, and Ernest Hausman, who had a nice freshman season for Nebraska at linebacker.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of interesting, to be honest, because Michigan at the linebacker position, has Junior Colson, who has been an All-American while he's been here, had a phenomenal season again this year. Nakai Hill-Green, who started all last year, was out this entire season, so that might be a piece of it. But they do have Jimmy Rolder as well, who is a young guy, young 4-star guy that came in and has played really well in practice and stepped up even in some games. Mike Barrett is a fifth year that became one of the top middle linebackers in the country, honestly, after 4 or 5 seasons with Michigan, where he was bounced around, went through different defensive coordinators. So it'll be interesting to see where Ernest Hausman fits in, but ultimately for the depth purposes, it's a phenomenal pickup for Michigan, where it's a young kid that has experience and played well for a team that didn't play well much of all year. So for him to be, one of those standout kids, I think it's a pretty big pickup for Michigan on the defensive side of the ball.
National Signing Day is coming up in 7 days. Roderick Pierce is a defensive lineman out of Illinois that they picked up here in just the last few days. And regardless of the measurables or the metrics, obviously they like him and like what he does. Your thoughts about whether it's Pierce or just the focus and the drive toward National Signing Day and what Michigan needs to do?
Yeah, I think that, building up these pieces really, I think, is where Michigan needs to get the ball rolling in the recruiting facet. I think that, obviously, I think there are a lot of people around Ann Arbor sitting there like, you're 13-0, you're playing for a college football playoff. What is taking so long to get the ball rolling on this class, right? Well, people have pointed to NIL, of course, because Michigan, I wouldn't say is at the in the news as the top NIL program. But there's also, you have to think about, like, from a recruiting standpoint, well, Jim Harbaugh, toyed with the NFL, right? They lost both coordinators. So they had to restart with a lot of those relationships over the past year. But I think they're to a point now where they can say, hey, you're coming here, you're going to win, or play for a championship, right? And so I think that guys like Pierce, when they start getting these guys, it really does help when you start putting the pieces together. The big one is Jaden Davis, right? I think that's, if you get that QB, a lot of dominoes fall into place after that. And so I think that, getting him here, I'm hearing he's now talking about making a decision in January. But the longer that you wait for that, the tougher it is to sign this class, just because, people start asking questions when there's not a lot of commits that are committed, and why guys are waiting and all those things.
We've got 2 to 3 weeks before New Year's Eve. And of course, the matchup against TCU in the college football playoff will run down that matchup in more detail going forward. But just in regards to an approach, a mindset, based on what Harbaugh says, the other coaches, players, do you sense any difference in what it looks like and feels like for them this year versus last year?
I do feel like there is a difference. I actually talked to some of the guys about this just the other day. And last year, like, I don't think anybody would admit this publicly, but I would say they were just kind of like, all right, this is the first time we're in the playoff. We're happy to be here playing the number one defense in the last 3 decades or whatever, maybe history, whatever you want to call it. They were happy to be there, I think, to an extent. Obviously, every single guy in that room is going to say, we went out there, we wanted to win a national title. That obviously, right? But I think it was, they were just happy to beat Ohio State, happy to win a Big Ten title for the first time in a long time. Now this year, we're the favorite. They really truly believe that they can go out and win a national title this year. They think for sure they should go out and win this game against TCU, and they think they do have a legitimate shot versus Georgia or Ohio State in the national championship. I know JJ has come out and said he wants those boys again. Whether that's bulletin board material, I'm sure it's up in Ohio State's locker room currently. But I think there's a different mindset overall. Whereas they think, all right, of these 4 teams, we are the top team and can play with anybody in this college football playoff and win the whole dang thing.
Excellent stuff from Justin Rowe, blueby90.com, wolverine.plus. Justin, just so people are aware, what do you have available at those 2 destinations?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of stuff going on blueby90.com. We have stuff for just articles and, the latest buzz on portal and transfers and news leading up to the college football playoff. We're also doing some interviews, some fun interviews, like some wing eating contests with some players and things like that on our YouTube channel, and some new podcasts. And then on Wolverine Plus, we're doing some giveaways. You can actually, if you go to Wolverine Plus, the socials, we are giving away a free trip to the Fiesta Bowl. So if you want to head over there, we're doing a little 12 days of Christmas, 12 days of giving type thing. And you can go register to win a trip to the Fiesta Bowl.
Sweet. There you go, folks. Just another reason to get on over there.
That's right.
Justin, we always appreciate you stopping by, breaking things down for us.
Absolutely. Thanks, Mark.